I lost a door. Have you ever lost a door? I lost mine over Moldova, a tiny country between Romania and the Ukraine. I lost it while flying my little airplane. I'd just taken off, maybe 20 minutes into flight, and some annoying whistling sound got to my nerves. And I thought, like in a car, let's quickly open the door and close it again. But the wind got hold of that door, and it was very strong. It was too strong, I had to let go. So suddenly, there was no door in my hand, and all the papers were fluttering in the cockpit. And I had an expensive camera on my lap, and I was afraid it was going to fall out into the fields. But I was still flying. I carefully looked around to see if the door was still anywhere, and I was happy to see that it hadn't damaged the tail of my plane, so I decided to fly on. So I've always been a freedom-loving type person. I've backpacked into the world after I dropped out from school, hitchhiking, and several years later, I founded a IT company which ran pretty well. You see, it grew up to 25 staff here. And maybe 15 years later, I realized this company is now mature. I should get into the freedom again and let go of this company, and I fired myself. So I had heaps of free time again. And with this free time, I went to do new, innovative things, like driving around in an electric car, and I guided a number of startup entrepreneurs to see if I could help them, and hopefully I was going to found another company for myself. But nothing really happened. I didn't really have a goal or a challenge, and I already had my pilot license, so I decided to look around to some advice of a person who said there's a small home-built experimental aircraft for sale. And I had a look at it. This is it. And normally, I'm the type of person who doesn't really want to own so much stuff. I like the sharing economy. But in this case, I decided to buy the little plane. And I took it up flying. Then you have these perfect views from the sky, from the clouds. So much scenery around you. It gets even better if you fly over the clouds. Those clouds are so beautiful. I'm sure you've seen them from big planes. They're fluffy and white. They're like in a dream. But the cool thing, if you're your own pilot, you can actually fly around them, like in a roller coaster. That's a freedom type thing, right? The dream gets even like a fairy tale, which happened only twice to me, when you see little balloons up in the sky there from your plane window. And I think of the little kids that let go of these balloons with a cart underneath and made the wind made it go somewhere. So I took every opportunity I could to go flying across Europe for the last years. I went to see all the friends I had from previous trips, and if I didn't know someone somewhere, I used couch surfing to get to meet local people and learn about their cultures and meet more interesting people. So many places. And I'm here to share with you some of the insights I got from all this flying. If you see things from above, 1,000 hours in that little cockpit, you get your thoughts and your visions and your ideas. It's a bit of a high information density talk, so stay tuned, please. The first thing I really liked so much from above is this delta, where you see the meanders make these beautiful curves. The blue colors or the range of colors, I find it so amazing. What I like so much about it, it's all organic. There's no design there. You don't need any managers to make it so beautiful like this. It just grows, that's what nature does. It got even better at low tide on the sea north here, on the way to one of the islands, when you see the water retract and it leaves behind these patterns. Those patterns remind me of the nerves in my brain or in a leaf. And again, these are all organic. There's no design there. The beauty comes by itself, by free flow of the water. More mysterious it got on my way to the North Cape. I'll tell you more about that trip later. On the way to the North Cape, you pass over Lapland in the north of Sweden, and there are heaps of lakes there, and they show these mysterious circles. They're large. You see the trees in the distance. I still really don't know how they got there, but they remind me of the fractals I used to program on my computer in the 80s. Something to do with iterations and generations. And then you get these patterns, this beauty. So all that flying gave me even more of a free feeling. And I could get annoyed by all the regulations we have on Earth, all the bureaucracy. You need to bring your passport to fly to another country. There is lots of aviation regulation that can get annoying too. So I started to believe in one Europe, or maybe even one world, or the unity that we heard this morning. Very idealistic, of course. But then I zigzagged for a bit over the Alps, which is astonishing by itself once more. These snow-capped mountains can be higher than my little plane can fly over, because there's not enough oxygen. It's very desolate. But after a week of zigzagging, I had to go back home, turn north into Germany. So there I saw my view into Germany, and it was the first time I realized, oh, well, Germany does look different than Austria, where I'd been flying all that time. So at first I thought all countries look pretty much the same because they're all the same sky. But here I could see a clear difference. In the distance you see Germany, in the front you still see the snow-capped mountains of Austria. And these plains in the distance, they have plenty of room for big cities to grow, like Munich or Stuttgart. And in between those cities, you will want autobahns, right? Where you can do 200 kilometers per hour in your BMW. Whereas in Austria, I had seen tiny towns next to small rivers in villages, in valleys, with windy roads in between the villages. And you would imagine all the Austrians need to shovel snow all the time to keep the roads clean. So that creates a different culture in Austria than you can have in Germany. It got even clearer when, as soon as you enter Germany, you see all these solar panels from above. You see them everywhere, really. And the only explanation, of course, is that they're subsidized very much. So you would wonder, how come the Germans get so much money for solar panels? Why don't we get that here or in Austria? That's not fair. You know, it would plead for a united world again, solar panels for everyone. But as soon as you enter Holland, you see windmills. And like today, you realize we're not such a sunny country. We're more of a windy country. So maybe it does make sense to have a different set of money flowing in Holland, subsidize different stuff, than you would in a different country with a different geological history or geography. And it would even make me realize that there are more sets of rules that will form a country or a community, like a language or culture or history. So although at first I believed in one big world with everything the same, from above I got to see that maybe there is often a reason for separate countries or cultures or communities to exist. I promised to take you flying all the way up to the North Cape. So I'd been flying over Sweden and Lapland all day, beautiful blue skies. And I saw this mysterious circle. It was like meditation. But there in the distance, I see Norway, the mountains of the fjords of Norway, another example of a natural border. But with this natural border came clouds, a weather change. And clouds are bad news for me as a visual pilot. I cannot fly through the clouds. I have no radar. So I had to dive under the overcast level of the clouds. And here I fly at maybe 200 or 300 meters above the cold Arctic waters. I'm already in radio contact with my destination airport, but still I'm nervous because did I do my fuel calculations right? Will the weather further deteriorate? Will I make it before sunset? I can also not fly in the dark. So I was in touch with the destination airport, but I didn't see them yet. Their runway must be behind a mountain. And as soon as I turned around this fjord, I got to see this runway. And it felt so welcome because they switched on all the runway lights for me. Normally they don't do that for small planes. But I was only the fourth visitor there on that day, and they must have welcomed me this way. So that felt really cool to know where to go. And normally, I'm a type of person who thinks outside the box. I'm not really into, lines and everything. But in this case, it was so nice to know exactly where to go. So I landed safely, and I got both feet safe on the ground again. So what I liked about this situation so much too is that even although I'm a very much a free-loving person, there are situations where even I enjoy the comfort of guidelines or rules or regulations. And this gave me a new insight, a better appreciation of other things that you see from above. Like here, you see salmon farming in the North Sea. The clear lines, they're probably good news for the farmers, but bad news for the salmon. Or you see the salt fields in the south of France. They're amazing too to see from above. They harvest salt here. And here in Holland we have all the greenhouses where we grow tomatoes. We create a perfect environment for the tomatoes. So not only did I get to see how I like lines sometimes, but I even got to appreciate the lines that you get to see from above, the man-made structures, the society, cultures, efficiency. And I try to project this beauty or this observations to a talk by Simon Sinek that I think many of you here will know, the Golden Circle. Yeah. He talks about the what, the how, and the why, and maybe it's related to motivation or a company producing something. But I would like to apply these three to the rules and the borders and the lines that I saw everywhere. You can easily name what rules exist. If you go and study law, you can read thick books about all the rules that we have, all the laws. You can also try to understand how to apply all these rules. That can be fun. I enjoy tricking the rules very much. You could organize yourself a student card and get 50% discount on an entrance ticket. Or you can try and evade taxes. I think some multinationals are now pretty good at that. But it makes most sense to understand the why of rules, or traditions, or culture, or constitutions. Where did they come from? Why are they there? If you try and think about that, you will notice that lines form a piece of a very big puzzle. And sometimes it's hard to shift the lines. Nevertheless, sometimes it may be needed to shift the lines. Sometimes times have changed, or circumstances have changed. The internet is a good example there. So I'll give you an example in Germany. I overflew this factory in the middle of Germany, which must have flourished during the industrial age, but that's over now. You see, they even chopped off the chimney. And some smart entrepreneur, he made an outdoor cinema center of it, because we are now in the entertainment age. I like examples like this, where people sort of change the rules. I encourage all of you to do that. A more personal example is that obviously I like to fly off into the sunset. Beautiful views there. But in this particular case, after the sun had set, I got a chance to fly my plane up much higher, and I saw the same sunset once more. I really felt like the little prince there. So, I've shared with you how, like I said, I love freedom, but I have understood that we also need rules or organization or structure. Tradition, culture, they all help us do things more efficiently, maybe. And I can even benefit from them. And if you're a leader and if you want to shape the world, maybe you can help others by creating guidelines every now and then. I honestly encourage everyone to wonder where those lines ought to be, and if they need to change, then help change them. So anyway, you may wonder what happened to my door. Well, I safely landed my plane in Romania. Some locals came to help me with a piece of cardboard. And the original door, it must have tumbled out of the wing onto a field. I still have the keys, actually. No use now. And some farmer may have tripped into it some days later. He must have walked on that field, and he must have seen an odd thing there, right? So maybe this farmer was about to build a chicken shed. And maybe he needed a door in that chicken shed. So I hope it got to put it to good use. And now I have a question for you. If you happen to go walk in Moldova, and you see a chicken shed, please, with an odd-looking door, please take a picture and send it to me. Thank you.